Welcome to the second episode of The Nest Show, the podcast that brings you insights into the crypto market, trading and investment experiences, and what we're looking forward to as we navigate this space together. In this episode, we're jumping into the fray of what is quite possibly the most important topic over the lifetime of a trader: trading psychology. It may not sound as sexy as topics like gem hunting for 100x gainers or auto trading to make money in your sleep, but psychology, or the subtle operating system that dictates the behavior of each trader, will indeed inform whether or not a trader puts themselves in a position to capitalize on these amazing opportunities to begin with. We are very excited to dive into this topic with our in-house experts and hope that you get as much out of it as we do. Once again, thank you for joining The Nest Show. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. What The Nest Show is: this is a podcast brought to you by the Birb Nest community, an independent crypto and forex-centered trading community built to sharpen each other in capturing opportunities in the market, all while protecting capital along the way. What this is not: trading advice. We are not financial advisors, and you should not regard any information here or in the Nest Club as financial advice. And you should always consult a licensed financial advisor before making financial decisions. I'm your host, Ben, joined by my co-host, Sponge, and we are once again joined by our esteemed leader, Crypto Birb. And I'd like to give a quick shout out to Birb, who just passed stage 1 of the Chartered Market Technician Association, all done to improve the quality and skill of his depth as a technical analyst. Well done, brother. Today is an exciting show, and as you heard in the intro, we've got a lot to get into. With that, it's my great pleasure to introduce our featured guests, Ceetified and Jimmy. Ceetified is currently a PhD candidate in psychology and psychological leader at the Birb Nest, where she conducts personalized, trader-specific sessions. She mostly takes a cognitive behavior approach to help clients with their trading psychology, and this is informed by years of clinical experience in a psychiatric hospital practice. Jimmy is a certified NLP coach, a Birb Nest team member, and takes pride in helping Nest Club members realize the right mental framework for optimized trading outcomes. Thanks for being here, everyone, and welcome to The Nest Show. Ceetified, what's going on?
Yep, all's good, going well. How's it going with you?
Very good. I'm in LA here, and the weather is fine. Nothing to complain about. What about you, Jimmy?
Well, I'm fine as well. Very excited to be part in this second podcast of the Birb Show.
Hey. And Adrian, Sponge, how are you guys doing?
I'm doing great, man. Happy to be here, as always.
Adrian, you've had your nose on the grinder, man. Hard at work. Well done, brother.
Thanks, mate. I mean, I'm doing great, and I'm extremely excited for this very episode. I honestly think, getting the full psychological approach is what every trader needs to actually build wealth in life. So I'm extremely excited and waiting over for this episode to roll in.
Absolutely, and I don't think enough can be said on the importance of trading psychology. As we all know, the marketplace is indeed just a reflection of the greater psychology going on with collective consciousness of sorts. So mastering your own psychological approach is of paramount importance. Sponge, we appreciate you, preparing some of these questions and whatnot. What has been your personal approach with trading psychology as it relates to your automated trading? I mean, thankfully, that's taken a good bit of volatility out of your own headspace, huh?
Oh God, yeah. Oh, definitely. I mean, algorithmic trading is just amazing for that. I mean, the whole system's automated. I don't even have to think. There are times where I'll think about quite seriously front running my own system, but then you just have to, you have to overcome those fears and feelings and just sit back and let the algorithms take over.
Oh, the joy of not thinking.
It's great, yeah.
Right on. Well, listen, you've prepared some great questions here, and I know you have one for Jimmy starting off. Why don't you lead in with that?
Sure, I'd love to. Jimmy, could you give us a short introduction about yourself, who you are and your experience in psychology, and how that's pertained to your trading and to trading in general?
Yeah, of course. I'm a team member of the legendary Birb Nest, and my main focus is to help our members with creating and realizing the right mental framework which is needed to become successful in trading. I'm an NLP coach, so I mainly use NLP techniques. And by the way, NLP stands for neuro-linguistic programming, meaning that the subconscious mind is trying to help the conscious mind. I also combine this with some neurology, so actually neuroscience and psychology. And I love to help our members. Honestly, it's a really rewarding job because by doing this, I'm helping our members with creating the right mental framework which can boost their overall trading performance. And there's an and, it also can help them in their personal life because it is all about emotions and how to regulate and manage emotions. So it's actually a double win.
Yeah, too right. I mean, I'm sure it builds someone up from the bottom. You can have a perfect working strategy, but the execution's just not there when your psychology is just not in the game. How important would you say psychology is in trading itself?
Honestly, it's not the most sexy aspect of trading, and it's the most overlooked aspect of trading. The psychological aspect of trading is extremely important, without any doubt. It's all about having the right mindset, having the winner's mindset. And we shouldn't forget that the market is fueled by emotions. If you see a chart, we actually see emotions. And we also should be very honest. Most traders are not successful at all. In Forex, 90% they lose money. In crypto, I haven't done any research, but I think it's maybe around 70, 80%. So the problem here is we actually trade our beliefs and not the market. We often hear trade what you see and not what you think. But many traders, unfortunately, they do exactly the opposite.
Oh yeah, it's very easy to look at the chart and front run your own emotions and just go outside of your own trading system. We've all done that, I'm sure, every single one of us.
Yeah, definitely. And we also shouldn't forget that this industry is a 24/7 industry. We don't need much physical skills to execute the trade. Am I right? You just need actually a simple click and a button, and it's enough to execute a trade, to buy or to sell, to long or to short. It's overall a mental game, and if we don't have the right mental framework, then we will not be able to succeed in the long run. Okay, you can win a trade or two, but in the end it's all about the long run. And because emotions, they will take control over us. And the funny thing is, most likely everybody who's listening now agrees with this, that emotions are the enemies when it comes to trading. But once they open a chart, they forget everything and they continue with making the same mistakes over and over. Most of them, they know fear and greed, enemies. But many of us and many of the traders, they don't know how, one, to recognize them, two, how to regulate them, and three, how to manage these emotions. And in fact, I'm convinced that mastering TA and FA, and I have a lot of respect for people who mastered those two, but I'm convinced that mastering these two is way easier than mastering ourselves, because 90% of our actions, they come from our subconscious mind. So we're actually wired to do actions in a certain way, and the problem here is we are not conscious about that. So that's the big problem.
Yeah, that's true. I agree. I think that's a very good point. And I think one thing that trading probably teaches us all as we go through and become more experienced is that we have to deep dive into our own personality, into our own psyche, and really sort of confront those pitfalls where it comes to emotion. Because humanity, our greatest strength as a race is our emotion, but it's also a huge pitfall when it comes to making timely decisions in trading and following strategy.
I tell you guys, speaking truth to power here, I love what I'm hearing here. Just to jump in for a minute, it is so fascinating to me because, with the market as being basically a reflection of collective psychology and personal psychology, if you don't know yourself at a very deep level, then you're really playing with fire because the market and especially leverage provides amplified opportunities for people to self-destruct. And as we see every day, self-destructive behavior is rampant. In fact, it could be said that, if people just got out of their own way, then so many personal problems and societal problems would evaporate, over the course of a season, but it's really fascinating because people will get into the market and they think, oh, I got to learn TA, or, oh, I got to learn FA. I got to be tutored by this guru, such and such. But really, what the market becomes is another platform for them to self-destruct because they don't know that they're hardwired to identify with victimhood or identify with fear or the kind of feedback and endorphin rush that being under the gun gives them. And if you don't know that that's where you draw your identity from, then you will subconsciously and unconsciously and even consciously continue to propagate these patterns of losing or of eating your own gains or of just scraping by, where indeed you have the physical tool set to really thrive. So I can't speak highly enough about, Jimmy, what I think you and Seedified are bringing to the table here. It's the most valuable thing that a trader can equip himself with, as well as, their own personal human journey. So kudos.
Yeah, 100%. And you know what? The best thing about trading psychology is you can master it. It's not easy. It takes some time. Also some efforts, but it's really possible. You can realize this. One of the quotes of Dr. Joe Dispenza, who's by the way a well-known brain scientist, very famous. One of his statements is, your personality creates your personal reality. And this is also very true when it comes to trading. We can change to become better into trading psychology. But there's also a problem here, Ben, and this is the ego problem. There is also an ego problem when it comes to trading psychology. And the thing is that some people, I would say almost the average, says, but wait, I have a master's degree, I work as a lawyer, I'm a business consultant, I studied at one of the top-ranked universities at Stanford, Cambridge, I have the brain power. Yes, he or she might have the brain power and a very high IQ, very knowledgeable, very smart, very bright. But this will not serve you at all when it comes to trading, because you need a mindset, a different mindset. And especially people who are really control-minded and people who want to rationalize everything, they have actually a handicap because emotions can't be rationalized. And having a trade mindset needs coaching, it needs training, you need to be honest to yourself. And at Birb Nest, we help our members with this.
Amen, Jimmy. I am loving what I'm hearing. And I think that all of our listeners and everyone on this call definitely can speak to this from personal experience. I can relate to it in my own trading experience, definitely more than I would like to, and wish that I had learned a lot of these lessons much earlier on.
That's right. Seedified, yeah, it's great to have you with us. So I just wanted to ask you, what do you think it takes to become more disciplined when trading?
Thanks for having me. I guess with discipline, it comes with, again, I think a lot of it comes from emotions and regulating emotions, because as human beings, emotions often take over and it's a part of you. And of course, you can't get rid of it entirely. And one way is to regulate it. And the best way to do so is to always have a trading plan. So right from the get-go, to always have in mind to plan when you should take on the trade, when you should set your stop losses, and when you should take profit, and stick to it, and not let your emotions or greed or fear of missing out take over, and try and test this out by journaling it over time to see if it works for you with such a trading plan. Perhaps you might need to tweak it along the way. But the most important thing I really think is to stick to your trading plan and not see trading as a hobby. If you have that perception as trading as a hobby, you're less likely to want to stick to your trading plan and learn more as you go on and improve. And you're also less likely to put in the time and effort to do so.
Absolutely, yeah. It's almost like backtesting a trading system or a strategy itself. I think there's a definite importance to as much as there is to backtesting a system is to backtesting yourself, and like you said, journaling is hugely important. Your feelings at the time of the trade, like your wants and needs, and whether you wanted to actually get into that trade logically speaking when you sort of look back in hindsight, or whether it was an emotional call. Would you say money management is a part of psychology? Would you say, obviously leading on from what you said there, as trading as a hobby, would you argue that playing with smaller amounts of money at first would help a person psychologically?
Yeah, that definitely is, especially after you have had successful losses and stuff like that. For some people, maybe not even dabbling with small amount of money. You can even start with paper trading in the beginning, but as we know, paper trading doesn't involve emotion, so it does not work for everyone. So really starting out with really small amounts to see and really just get back to the basics, and then sort of retweak your strategy, and not thinking about actually making money. So the perception is getting your strategy right with just a small amount of money. And because money comes from implementing a strategy as well, and slowly, once you rebuild your confidence, you see that you are getting it, and your strategy sort of clicks together. Your confidence gets better. The money will come naturally without being forced along the way.
Absolutely, I totally agree. A personal strategy of mine that I implemented some time ago was to not actually look at money at all. I don't even look into the financial side of things when I look at my profits or losses. I just look at it as a percentage, and I've tried to sort of direct my attention away from the financial side of things. I don't know if that would be something that people could find useful or not.
Yeah, definitely. That is one tip that I did. I started, having successful losses. I think that's always a good way to get yourself going again.
Yeah, I love the notion of gamifying the system, because money in and of itself has so much emotional energy attached to it. And I think that when you can divorce yourself from that emotional engagement, it just makes trading more fun, and it makes it a much more fruitful venture. Now, Ceetified, I have to brag on you for just a moment, because I, like so many other members of the Birb Nest team, have been quietly and not so quietly impressed with your work in trading therapy and the module service that you provide for our community members there. Can you tell us a little bit about what a new trading therapy client can expect with the onboarding process with you, and kind of the preliminary journey of what the main profile of your clients looks like, and kind of where you take them over the course of time?
Yeah, absolutely. Right now we have really a small group of traders, and these are traders who are really motivated in wanting to make a change in their trading psychology. So most of these members actually have the will to want to change this. And what we do is to get together every week for about an hour, where I just pick a topic. It could be something on losing money. And then we just ask everyone to sort of share their experiences. And members really enjoy this, as it really helps them to process and evaluate and just think and reflect about the previous mistakes that they have made. And then often they come to awareness of what is needed to improve with regards to themselves, and they really like talking about it. And thereafter, I usually conclude by providing tips on particular problems, and then we will discuss this further. And this is something that's very unique. That is not provided anywhere else in any other crypto communities out there in the world, where members can gather together. We try to create this really safe environment, which is really therapy-like, to really chat about your problems. And then during these sessions, I try to help them overcome any of the problems that they have, and other members as well try to chime in and give their 2 cents worth as well. So at the end of the day, we learn a lot from each other. and we grow together as traders, and as the saying goes, together we are stronger. So it really makes it really enjoyable for everyone in the group to actually learn and grow together as traders.
Not to be a shill, but I'm just so proud of the work that you continue to do there, and all I got to say is our community members are lucky to have you.
Thank you so much. It's my privilege to serve the members as well and to help them.
Seedify, thank you very much for that valuable insight. That was great information for all of us. Jimmy, moving over back to you. I see that you posted a poll on Twitter a few days ago, and in that poll you asked people to vote for their biggest psychological trading issues. What was the outcome of that poll, and what would be your expert response to those results?
Well, yeah, I did a poll on Twitter. It was a tight one. Most people, they voted for greed and indecision, but slightly more votes for indecision. And because of the limited time we have, I would like to discuss something about indecision. And when I think about indecision, I'm thinking about dopamine, overload of information, conflicting information, and analysis paralysis. The thing is, we all use technology, right? But most of us, we haven't learned yet how to use it in a balanced way. Most of us, we are overusing it, traders and non-traders. So you and me, we are basically information. We are a storage of information, because our brain is actually a storage of information which has happened in the past. And we are accessing information for all kinds of purposes. So we are also accessing information for trading purposes. But many of us, we can't break the romance when it comes to our devices. So actually it owns us instead of the other way around. Do you agree?
I do, yeah. Would you say that applies to screen time as well?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it applies on screen time. But the thing is, it feeds us, right, with information. But we, on the other side, we also love connection. In the end, we're human. We love tribe. We love to be part of a group. But overdoing this brings this problem with it. There is a release of dopamine in your brain. It's actually a pleasure chemical, a reward chemical. And if you're overdoing it, and if you're obsessively engaged in trying to find the information, then the reward system gets activated in the brain and you start to release too much dopamine. And if you're starting to create too much dopamine, the receptors, actually your brain can't absorb it anymore. So actually there's an over amount of dopamine. And this brings the following problem. It's like your brain, it starts to recalibrating to such a high level that it needs more dopamine. And then you get this problem. Walk outside, watch sunset, the social conversation, dinner with friends is way too slow, because we are overstimulated. And this is a big problem. We call this, and you can forget this word, but you're allowed to forget this word, anhedonia. We don't enjoy other things because lack of dopamine. The receptors, they get, desensitized, they shut down. And if we keep shifting our attention, which consumes a lot of energy, from an email to another text message, to Discord, to Telegram, to CoinMarketCap, Binance, BitMEX, WhatsApp, a TradingView, and now there's also TikTok, Instagram. And what we are practicing here is 100% detrimental to our mind and body, because we are practicing a short attention span. Our focus is fragmented, and then it's hard to learn, and then it's hard to absorb information to make the right decision. We only crave for instant gratification, quick pleasure. We want to be stimulated. And combine this then with an overload of information. It's like you're really fragmented. You have absorbed a lot of information on Telegram and on Discord, on internet, YouTube, and you name it. And the misconception here is knowledge is everything. Knowledge is good. Knowledge is power. But it's not always power, because too much of it can lead to analysis paralysis. At that moment, we don't know what to do. We don't know what to decide. And remember, this trading game is a mental game. And then the danger of decision fatigue kicks in. We're getting tired. We don't know what to think. We're seeing conflicting calls. People are calling, hey, Bitcoin goes up. People are saying, no, Bitcoin goes down. Buy now, sell now. It's all conflicting. And this won't serve us at all.
Yeah, I have to say that speaks especially to the crypto market, as at least as I experience it, because as it is an emerging market, and especially as so many young and new traders have come to identify and really engage with this market, I think that it goes hand in hand with the 24-hour stimulation cycle. Just like Forex markets, where the market never sleeps. And even all of the programs and platforms that we use to disseminate information in the market are all gamified on that dopamine reward system. The same as Google and Facebook uses to keep you coming back for more, and it takes more and more stimulus to exact a reaction and a response. And I think it's fascinating, even looking back on 50 years back over the course of human evolution, where you mentioned that, sunsets and witnessing social interactions, would have been, some of the big kind of blips on the radar, not to mention, industrially processed sugar. But one of the big evolutionary stimulus was eye contact, human eye contact, and how holding someone's gaze would kind of make the heart flutter, so to speak, But these days we are so tuned into the Black Mirror or any other source of stimulus that I think that it behooves all of us to get back to the roots, resettle. I cover a little bit in the Fit Nest about dopamine fasting and kind of resetting your norms, but I think it's paramount to successful trading, to have a clean baseline and really start from a healthy balance point.
That's exactly true. It's also an addiction, because the problem with dopamine is you need more to feel the same pleasure. So you need to increase finding information. You need to it actually becomes an obsession. And combine all those things, this overload of dopamine, overload of information, leads to analysis paralysis. And then once people are stuck in this indecision phase, they are also really sensible to execute a impulsive trade, which is, of course, not wise to do.
Absolutely. And I feel like we've covered so much at this point that we're at a really clean point to open it up to kind of a wider psychology view. And Adrian, I know that you have so much experience with, various community members and Twitter and, some of your travels and meetups and speaking engagements where you really interact with so much of the spectrum of the community. What have you witnessed in yourself, and in your journey with the community as far as the way that trading psychology plays into success or dissolution?
Well, sure. So, I'm personally not a professional, psychologist, just like our friends, Amy and Jimmy. While what I can say, like from my experience, definitely is that the whole market, the entire market is driven by two emotional states, as a matter of fact, which is the fear and the greed, right? So these are the main drivers. And when you feel over, self-complacent very often with your positions, right? With your, you're just feeling that, damn, I'm just good at this shit like so much, right? I'm so good at it. I'm so good at it. I like everything is just rising. Like my portfolio is skyrocketing like 24 hours a day, etc. So this is probably the time you should take your profits, right? And get the rest. No, like otherwise you very often miss the good take profit points. The market starts pretty much to dump and keeps plummeting, to just lower and lower, right? And you're just, kind of like you're losing the faith in you that, okay, Like, okay, I'm going to sell that, to the next high, right? But it just keeps dumping and keeps dumping, etc., etc. And this is like a vicious circle, like this snowball effect that makes you later on selling perfect top. Selling the perfect bottom, like a 95% loss to the entire portfolio. And this is mainly the reason, for many factors that we've already like touched upon, right? Be it awareness, self-awareness, like your strengths and weaknesses, having no plan whatsoever or strategy. Like you got to know your favorite technique or style. Now you also have to kind of like have emergency plans. I'm personally a huge fan of having an emergency plans to always be ready for whatever comes, right? Just around the corner, and so that you're not pretty much like surprised with what you're seeing. Because again, that's an additional pressure and additional emotions, right? It's some tension that you need to kind of like overcome, apart from external problems like managing the money. So we need to know how to relax. I'm not quite sure if you have guys familiar with Jacobson's. Damn, gotta translate it from Polish, but he's not Polish though. Relaxation techniques that you kind of like, there are like a couple of sessions. It lasts like a half an hour and an hour. Then you just kind of like you kind of like stretch your muscles and add some like chill music to that, etc. So go check it out. I mean, it's awesome. But considering it, like the perspective for trading being a hobby versus professional trading, right? These are like completely two different perspectives, and you need to, like, when you're a pro trader, which means you are professionally trading, right? This includes like you being focused, like just like any other regular professional job. Now you need to be focused. You need to stay focused within your plan, within a consistency, etc., etc. So huge point to that is the patience, right? Which almost nobody has nowadays. I don't know, again, if you're familiar with the marshmallow test, and I'm not talking about the marshmallow test by just building the tower out of the marshmallows, but I'm talking about the one that Warren Buffett actually just proceeds with to spot like good potential people to work with, right? Some to make a good business. So the question is, within this, let's say, experiment, for who manages to delay the reward that they get, right? So the question is whether you like to have one marshmallow right now, right? Or two marshmallows, two pieces, like in an hour or so. And according to him, like the money he's spending, the money he's investing in all the people and in all the brands and companies are only for those that actually pass this test of just delaying the reward, because when you delay the reward, the greater it becomes, right? And but it all is nothing when it comes to having no education with regard to trading, right? Because I'm kind of like circling back. And you can have a full awareness. You can have you can know how it works for trading, like what to click and where and when, etc. But keeping it developed, like constant progress, right? Step by step, you just go and develop, see what suits you better and better. Just constant managing to find better ways to improve your trading, and that also. Pretty much like corresponds well with why as well, like why we lose money, and just like for how to stop it, because there are many people that have lost all their entire like lifetime savings. They say their houses took some loans, etc., and they put it in some shady ICOs or in some shady exchanges that have completely like just tech recent hack stuff, right? HEX. Like there are so many shady projects because of lack of proper and full regulations for the cryptocurrency market, that you can like easily get wrecked like within 5 minutes. It's so easy, and when you're not really caring about it, then you just pay your very wish. You're just getting wrecked like in the nick of a time. and having no stop losses, right? Which gives you no ability and no like actual basics for any type of risk management. So if you cannot really control your risk, then like what are you even doing in this world, right? Being over leveraged, like having no backup keys, like guys, just watch what Peter Schiff just did, right? Like having completely no secure, like no two-factor authenticator, no backup seeds, keys, etc., etc. This is all just begging for loss, right? Or like I'm quite sure you do so. You do so as well. But I keep receiving like every day couple of DMs, couple of messages, mails about send us 1 Ether, we just sent you back 2, right? Like seriously, bumps and dumps, like shady ICOs. I remember there was one ICO, I believe that was one of the first months during 2018, that there was some ICO, and they kind of like all in all disappeared with all the money, just leaving the blank website page with one caption written in the upper corner, which was simply the penis.
Did you say they left a penis up there?
Took out all the damn money that they collected via the ICO, and they just like exit scams like so severely that it was so funny, like sad and funny, like this is all risk.
Absolutely. It reminds me a little bit of Jesse Livermore, if you've heard of him.
Sure, I did.
He made it from essentially zero. He started with something like $1,000 playing leverage in the trading shops, basically, when it was all face to face sort of stuff, and he made it up to like 100 million, and then down to zero. Borrowed money, back up to 100 million. I mean, it's just a massive roller coaster of emotions. And although we're not talking about the same level of money necessarily with crypto traders, I imagine people are going through the same sort of thing. And it probably takes a hell of a lot to come back from a 95 or even 100% loss. And leading on from that, Certified, what do you think are the psychological reasons that people can lose money? Particularly if they've made large sums. How do you think it is that comes about?
Yeah, particularly if they sort of have already made large sums, for example, they tend to want to overtrade because of this overconfidence they have had gathered, through these successful trades, thinking that they are really good at what they're doing now, and disregard all trading rules and risk management that they have, and they start playing even larger position sizes, and neglecting things like putting a stop loss, and that's when you can sort of lose all the profits that you have made in the wink of an eye, overnight.
Absolutely, yeah. That overconfidence can be a real issue for traders, and I think certainly when you're at a level of success, when you haven't lost a trade in a while and you're on a serious run, it's always good to take a step back, I think, and maybe even just a few days off, go for a walk, whatever it may be. Do you think these kind of things are beneficial? Do you think taking a break or reducing position size would be a positive factor?
Yeah, absolutely. One thing to do is always, when you have had made some really great profits, it's always good to take a break for 24 hours at least, to let these emotions that you're probably feeling really euphoric, just based on that trade. And as we know, emotions are volatile, and you want to get it back to status quo, and it needs time to do so. And always taking a break allows you to bring it back to equilibrium. And then you can sort of think rationally over your trades and not based on your gut feeling and rush into the next trade moving forward. And of course, doing exercises as well also really helps to sort of clear your mind and take things off trading just for a bit. And you will come back feeling more refreshed and, enter the market with a better perspective. At the end of the day, in crypto, it is 24 hours. There will always be another trade.
Totally agree. I think that very closely relates to what Jimmy was saying earlier about the dopamine fix, and in terms of what you said about if you catch yourself a large win, and you've got that stimulus from that large win, and you've got that rush of dopamine, and after a few minutes, few hours, that's going to die down. You're going to want to experience that feeling again, and certainly jumping back into the market is a terrible idea at that point. When you've experienced euphoria, I think definitely it's worth taking some time out, like you said. And you led on to a great point there with exercise. I think physical exercise is something that traders should definitely incorporate into their routine. Physical exercise and diet. I don't know. I'd have to put this onto you and ask you as well. Would you think physical exercise and diet plays a sort of key factor in psychology?
Yeah, absolutely. Physical exercises and what you're eating, because if you are sort of just camping in front of your laptop or your system all the time, you tend to want to binge eat on snacks and things like that, and you neglect your personal health, and you just are hooked onto your screen for many hours a day, and you're not thinking about doing anything else, and you sort of lose perspective and just focus on that same trade, and you can really lose your mind if you see it just jump up a few cents or down a few dollars and things like that, which can really play with your mind and cause you to sort of press the button to do something that you later regret down the road.
Amen. And guys, I got to say, this has been such a fun topic, and one that I'm sure that we are going to talk about frequently as we move forward with this show, as well as just among ourselves in discussion. And with that, I'd like to ask for closing thoughts from folks. Any takeaways that they'd like to leave our listeners ruminating on as we progress throughout the day. And I'll start with myself and just say that trading is nothing if not a mirror for your own psychology. And with that, I think it's important to learn from the greats in history and recognize that an unexamined life is not worth living, which is to say that if you're going to be in these markets and if you're going to be exposing yourself to all this volatility and all this risk and the reward, surely, you have to first look in the mirror and recognize who is coming to the table. Are you coming to the table as your hero? Are you coming to the table as your identity as a victim? Because there are just too many opportunities for you to satisfy both interpretations, and especially with these ICOs or with these scams, or, there are so many fly-by-night scenarios in crypto where you can definitely fulfill, rags to riches, back to rags in the course of a week if you don't guard yourself and recognize what it is that you're doing and what it is that you're trying to satisfy. What about you, Adrian? What would you like to leave our listeners with?
Well, there's not much more. I think that, apart from what we've already said, I think this is a huge bank of knowledge that we've just shared. But in all, I think, when we come up with solutions on how to stop losing finally, then I would personally divide it into like two groups. And then the one would be the emotional group, or the emotion related group, and the second one would be the rational related, let's say, right? So for the culture of trading, or the emotion aspect, we need to be, again, aware of ourselves, know our strengths and weaknesses. We need to have actual plan. We need to have actual strategy and actual goals that we are just striving towards. So the actual patience, the education, while on the other hand, you have the rational related, which would be simply to be aware of hacks, to be inside the community with regard to know what's good, what's bad. It's so easy to get into some Ponzi scheme, into some pyramids, schemes that you can just simply pour your money into the bottomless pit and never get it back, right? So another point is obviously use risk management, stop losses, right? Plan the trades beforehand, and not to use too much leverage, or I personally prefer to play spot cash markets instead of the leverage ones to reduce the emotional aspects. But this is very personal and depending on the actual characters, I think. always have, especially for crypto, the backup keys, right? Always make sure to protect your wallets with two-factor authentication, etc., etc. Just make sure that your money is yours forever. Yeah, and one of the actual ways to kind of like boost one's trading while being able to minimize the losses is actually leading via the way of good fundamental analysis, right? So, as much as cryptocurrency market is very risky itself, right, which can be considered high risk, high reward, compared to some legacy markets like regular stocks or commodities, etc. It is extremely crucial, I think, and definitive to know the good basics, the good fundamentals, and invest only in the project that has these good fundamentals, right? You know what I mean? So, there are many of these. And there have been many of these so far that, and there is a reason why, let's say, there are a couple of coins that keep it sustained for the top 10 or top 20 of cryptocurrency markets for the capitalization, right? And they used to be gems. The other day. They used to be under the radar, right? And they became this top 20 or top 10 or top 5, whatever, only because they delivered actual, they followed the actual value models, right? That they were offering at this time, and that they followed up on the promises. And it's extremely, as I said, crucial and important to know the good fundamentals for any project, and still, it doesn't mean one should invest more than they can lose, right? Do never invest more than you can afford to lose. Otherwise, you are just simply, you can wake up poor, right? Investing in some bottomless pit that cryptocurrency market can be one day. For some given coin. So I definitely would not suggest putting too much money into gems, right? Into projects that are flying under the radar, that they are having great, awesome fundamental values, but nobody's talking about them, right? So I would definitely put more focus on sustaining the equity curve, sustaining the actual, balancing the portfolio in a way so that the gems stand for only the part of your entire portfolio, so that you don't really invest. You don't go all in the gems, right? Because they are gems for a reason. They are flying under the radar, which means nobody is trading them almost. They are barely available on stocks and exchanges. I mean, and hence, they're very often poor liquidity. They are very often just being mined just somewhere in the background, in the quiet and peace, if you know what I mean. And this way, for the gems being, extreme, like total extreme of potential risk and potential reward given by and offered by these types of classes, I think that this could be a great addition to actually just see what we have and then print out freely for free on the monthly basis in our bulletins, right? The Birb Nest Bulletin, and it is pretty much like issued every month, usually within the very first week, between the very first and then the second week of every month, and we include them there. Like heavily and thoroughly examined and then analyzed the fundamentals for our potential gems, right? And these all are potential 10x makers in the near future, right? Because there are valuable projects that almost nobody is talking about them, right? And this is a great, like if you want to know pretty much like your next potential 10x or potential 100x, just like as much crazy as it sounds, when the bull market comes for altcoins finally, I don't see much reason why it couldn't fly like crazy, right? But again, it's you cannot really buy all of it and go all in and just expect it just pumps like crazy one day. If it happens, good for you, okay? This should be only some fraction. So like this way, we have reviewed in our bulletin such gems like Cortex, right? CTXC or NISO or Vero, or I don't know, like I believe there was a Beam like at the very beginning, Bolt also, MITx, which is the Morpheus Labs amazing project once again. And our latest one, the Fear Network, right? FRM. Like these are only the examples. These are only the examples that you can find in our bulletins. And if you're actually just struggling to find time to provide your full fundamental analysis by yourself, you can just go and enjoy our free content that we produce monthly for our followers, for our readers and viewers, and simply we do that for you for free. So if you like it, then just make sure to stay tuned every first or second week for a given month, and always shoot it. If you remind us on Twitter, so you just make sure to follow these threads that I'm posting, and all the research is done. So for potential 10x makers, so that's, I think, pretty fair, right? And you can get it obviously on thebirbnest.com/bulletin whenever they are ready.
Thanks, Adrian. Yeah, those are some great points. I've absolutely loved being a part of this podcast. Psychology is an area that I'm interested in, in regard to my own trading, but also in life. And it's been a privilege to have Certified and Jimmy here to discuss, some of these subjects, and it's just been consummately interesting. A lot of what's been said reminds me of a phrase that Professor Jordan Peterson wrote in his book, 12 Rules for Life. That's not a plug. I'm just saying it's a book I love on psychology. And that phrase is simply stand up straight with your shoulders back. And what that means is to take responsibility for yourself, your actions and your life. And it applies to all areas. And it certainly definitely applies to trading in itself. And yeah, it's just been really interesting. So yeah, thanks for coming on, guys. Jimmy, over to you if you have some closing remarks.
What I see the market is that people, they tend to focus too much on making money. It's good to make money, but if they're over focusing on the money aspect, this will allow them to abandon important risk management rules, such as risk per trade, position size, leverage, and these kinds of things. And take care of your mental capital, because if you're losing your mental capital, then you're not far away from losing your financial capital. They need to move their focus to the right direction, and that direction should be the process. So focus more on the process and not that much on the end goal. Find a mentor, because as you all know, 90% of traders, they lose money. They lose a lot of money. Also in 2019, a lot of people, they lost money. But if they had spent a tiny of that lost money on a mentor or a coaching, they wouldn't have lost that much.
Thanks, Jimmy, for those remarks. I'll hand it over to Certified now.
A couple of things that I would just like to wrap things up. So set realistic expectations on your portfolio growth in the year. Many people, when they first start out, they would like to think that making 100 to 200%, it's pretty normal in crypto. But this is a long-term game with trading. So set more realistic things, such as 30 or 40% for a year. And that's a really great step in sort of also helping you with the process of not just thinking about making money, like what Jimmy has said. And another thing that I'd like to add on is that trading also doesn't have to be a lonely process. Talk to someone about it if you ever feel lost. And I'm always an advocate of talking about things. You'll be amazed at just how talking things through will really help you process how you're thinking, how your mind works, and to also get to know yourself better as a person. And it will really greatly contribute to your overall mental health as well.
Amen. And of course, because I am a glutton for attention, I just wanted to add that my dad always said, leave it better than you found it. And I feel like where we can take that into our life as traders, as well as our day-to-day lives. How we do most anything is how we end up doing everything. So when you walk into a situation and you can benefit yourself or benefit that situation, then you'll be a better trader as a result. So I want to offer that challenge for everyone to grow personally and to put in the work, both at the computer and in your lives. I'd like to thank our guests and our listeners for joining our second episode of The Nest Show. Our guest today can be reached on Twitter, where the official team handle is at the Birb Nest. Birb is at crypto_Birb. Sponge is at SpongeCoinBob. Seedified is at Seedified, which is spelled SEETIFIED. Jimmy is at Jamal85. And I am Ben, or Tales from the Crypto, at Benjamin T1717. If you've appreciated the depth and breadth of what you've heard with us today, subscribe to our podcast and find our landing page at thebirbnest.com. We have a vibrant Discord community which acts as our central hub of operations, and we welcome you to join us at thebirbnest.com/Discord. We also offer an extensive free monthly bulletin on emerging crypto market trends, exclusive undervalued gem reports, and in-depth expert technical and fundamental analysis at thebirbnest.com/bulletin. We always appreciate engagement from our community, which of course means liking the video and subscribing to our page, where we insist on bringing you the highest quality content available. Also, we're happy to incorporate tips and topics from our listeners, where we invite you to comment below. This podcast is brought to you by the Birb Nest. Thank you, and trade on.